The girl sat on the beach gazing at the sea. Her eyes were as blue as the sea. Her hair dark brown with a healthy bronzed face. The waters bathed her town of Arens de Mar on the Mediterranean Sea. Paula was dreaming with open eyes about things that seemed impossible to many people. She was born on October 11, 1799 in the small town of fishermen and shipbuilders in the region of Catalunya, Spain.
Her parents were Montal and Vicenta Forbes. Her papa made fishing nets, and her mama did beautiful embroidery and lace making. Paula was the eldest child of Ramon Vicenta, and following her were Benito, Maria, Joaquin, and the youngest, Salvador, who had died before his first birthday. They had a simple Christian home with much work and joy. The death of Papa.
The situation in Spain at this time was not peaceful. First of all, the war with England forbid Spain to do sea trade, and this hurt the small coastal villages like Palos. Then in 1808, the French invaded, and the war lasted until 1840. These were very difficult times for them.
When Paula was 10 years old, her papa died unexpectedly. Since she was the eldest daughter, she had to begin working in order to help her mama and her younger brothers and sister. During these years of many painful surprises, her mama said,
At times, the plans of God are very different than our plans.
Paula never forgot the lesson her mother had taught her, and so she continued working and helping her, waiting for things to get better.
She also learned lace making and embroidery from her mother. She became an excellent couturier, the name given in her language, Catalan to girls who did this kind of work. Besides, she began helping in the house by caring for her little brothers and sister. Shall we go for an outing? Paula asked the younger ones. They all replied as they all left running and singing. Let's see who finds the most beautiful flower, challenged Paula, and everyone scattered on the hillside searching for flowers. The destination for every outing was the hermitage of Our Lady of Piety, and the flowers were for her. Paula knew how much Mary liked them. There she would share her thoughts and feelings with the Virgin, and she felt her mother's love, which gave her strength and courage to continue on.
Of course, she also had good friends whom she loved very much. Their names were Ines and Felicia.
Her youth.
The years passed and Paula became a beautiful young woman. The neighbors asked,
Doesn't this girl want to get married? She is passing up all of her opportunities. Do you want to be a nun?
Asked one of her aunts. Paula just smiled and kept the secret to herself.
She was the best catechist of Father Salvio Carbo, the village parish priest. The catechism children were crazy about her since she had played the gift of being lovable. She played with them, taught them to pray and to be good. She took them on outings. For that reason, the children followed her everywhere she went.
When she was 23 years old, she almost decided to enter a congregation of sisters, and she went to talk to her confessor about this, but her heart was still restless. She felt that God was asking something of her, and yet she did not know clearly what it was. One thing she was sure of was that she was happy in the midst of children.
Paula observed that there were schools for boys where they learned to read and write, but the girls, they were completely abandoned. She began to look at them with special love since many of them knew neither how to read nor pray. Something had to be done for them. That's what God was asking.
Her dreaming eyes gave birth to a great idea in her heart. She shared this with her confessor and her two faithful friends. This was her great secret. The journey began at age 29.
Paula awoke very early in the morning. She was going on a journey, but not just any journey. On an October morning of 1829, she left the village where she had grown up with her friend Ines Busquets. She wanted to begin fulfilling the dream she felt each time more strongly to be the will of God. It took them 2 long days of journey in Old Port to arrive at Figueras, a city near the French border with a famous military castle. They went there to open a school for girls. Paula and Ines wanted to be teachers and to teach the girls reading, writing, lace making, and something very important, to know and to love God. When they presented themselves to the pastor with 40 reals in their hands, he laughed at them and said,
You can go back to where you came from. With this money, you can't do anything. Ha 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 ha.
Ines was a little frightened, but Paula knew very well where the hand of God was leading her. So she consoled Ines, saying, We must save the families by teaching the girls the holy fear of God. In a short time, they opened the school of their dreams in an old pigeon attic. Each day, more girls came wanting to learn lace making. And as they taught them, they led them closer to God.
The year 1830 began with a pleasant surprise. The arrival of their mutual friend Felicia, who had wanted to become a Capuchin sister. She had given it much thought and had decided to join Paula in her adventure. They began to work with greater strength, and soon the place was too small for them. So they began a series of moves until finally they had a real school. It was Vespers of Christmas, 1832. This first year, they had 170 students and 30 of them were boarding students. 2 of their students, Francisca and Margarita, when they saw the good that Paula and her friends were doing, as well as the joy they spent, wanted to be part of this special group of teachers. Francisca's father was the captain of the military plaza, and he opposed his daughter's desires. But Francisca insisted so much that one day, she left home and did not return. It was January 21, 1837, when she came to stay with them for the rest of her years. But since Margarita was very young, she had to wait some years, so she entered 4 years later in 1841.
Now we are 5 with the same dream of saving the families by teaching the girls.
Paula exclaimed joyfully one day.
Tireless fathers. At this time, things were not going well in Spain. One government followed another and each one governed worse than the one before. In 1836, the government took all of the property away from the church and suppressed monasteries and religious houses. Many sisters and brothers had to flee the country in order to escape the violence. One day, in 1837, in 1837, Paula met with the father Escalapios. And then she saw God's will very clearly to expand the work of Calasans, taking it to the girls and young women. The times were difficult, but she wanted to begin a new congregation. Just when they were expelling all the religious from Spain, Paula had to wait. Meanwhile, she decided to leave for her hometown to begin another school. Together with Margarita and Francisca, Paula rented a house and opened a school there in 1842, but they didn't have room for so many girls. So with the help of the pastor, Father Palladio Roda, they began building a school.
By this time, things were a little better in Spain, and Paula wanted to fulfill her project of founding the pious schools for girls. So she went to Sabadell with Francisca and a girl who also wanted to become a religious. It was 1846. While they were waiting there, they were living very poorly in a rundown house. After some months, Father Jacinto Filio came to visit them. He was in charge of reorganizing the communities of Escolapios in Spain. Their poverty was so great that they didn't even have a chair to offer him. So they invited him to sit on a truck in which they had brought their things, admiring their way of life. He compared it to his founders and agreed to help Paula to realize her dream. The feminine pious schools was in the making.
All for God and for the girls. On February 2, 1847, the feast of the presentation of Jesus in the temple, Paula drew near the altar in the chapel of Sabadell. Father Agustin Casanovas was awaiting her there. He had accompanied her with great wisdom in taking the first steps of this new religious congregation. They said that he knew how to make something grand from something small. There at the altar, Paula publicly declared to God that she wanted to dedicate her whole life to him and to the girls. She made her religious profession. From this moment on, she would be known as Mother Paula of St. Joseph Calasanz. Yes, Mother, because this is what the Escolapias will be for their students. Later, her companions made the same promises. Ines, Felicia, Francisca, Margarita, and Carmen. This newborn institute will be called Daughters of Mary Religious of the Pious Schools, known as Madres Escolapias. They all pronounced the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and added a fourth vow of teaching. Immediately, they elected the one to be Mother Superior. Felicia Clavel of St. Teresa was elected anonymously. It was a surprise because some expected Paula to be elected. Pious schools for girls.
Father Agustin, the director of the new institute, desired to spread the new feminine pious schools all over Spain, and he relied on Mother Paula for the most difficult task. First, he put her in charge of organizing the school in Sabadell, which he did with great wisdom. Igualada was a large town at this time, but it did not have any educational institution for girls. The mayor was concerned about this and asked the religious Escolapias to begin a school there. Mother Paula opened the feminine pious schools in Igualada in June of 1849. In 1850, she did the same in Bedred, an agricultural area. Once again, she set to work and took up this new foundation. In 1852, she went to the small town of Masno to found a school from which came many vocations. During these years, Father Agustin worked a lot in elaborating the constitutions of the religious Escolapias. Speaking about the mistress of novices, he said, "When a religion goes beyond others in kindness, prudence, and knowledge, she shall be named the mistress of novices, even if it means taking her from another responsibility that is also necessary, because the novitiate is most important." It is clear that after he gave this point of reference, Mother Paula was selected to form the novices. She formed the first 130 Escolapias.
The vocations multiplied and so did the schools. The bishops provisionally approved the constitutions. With everything working at a surprising pace, it was proof that the dream of Paula was also the dream of God. In 1857, Father Agustin ceased as director of the institute. This was a hard blow for the religious Escolapias, but they continued on with their feet on the ground and their heart fixed on God. The mother of surprises.
Paula was sent to the new foundation in Olesa de Montserrat.
Dugay na kurupod.
In Olesa de Montserrat. Paula was sent to the new foundation in Olesa de Montserrat. in December of 1859. She remained there most of the time, except for the 3 years she was named Mother Provincial of Catalonia. In Olesa, she sacrificed work, work, and work. She was always smiling. She educated the mothers of families. She lived for the girls and her sisters in the community. In Olesa, she sacrificed work, work, and work. She was always smiling. She educated the mothers of families. She lived for the girls and her sisters in the community. Problems of all sorts were not lacking, but Mother Paula knew how to surrender herself to God, and she constantly turned to Him in order to carry out what she knew for certain was His dream. They didn't call Paula mother just because of the custom, but because she had the love of a mother for each and every one of her sisters in the community and for all the girls she met. Sometimes the religious in charge of cleaning the kitchen and the bathrooms will find them early in the morning already clean. She couldn't understand what was happening. Who could it be? Mother Paula, the foundress of the congregation, cleaned everything while the others were still asleep.
A few days before Christmas, Mother Paula wanted to treat her sisters to a special meal. A few days before Christmas, Mother Paula wanted to treat her sisters to a special meal. But the money box was practically empty. Paula collected the few coins that were there and went
Makatusok lagi nito.
to pray to the Virgin Mary. Then she sent a sister from the community to buy as many almonds and as much sugar as she could with this money so she could prepare a delicious chocolatada. The shopkeeper laughed when he saw the coins and gave the surprised shopper 2 large packages. He didn't take even a cent of the coin she had for shopping. Mother Paula sang with pleasure as she herself prepared the turon and cooked a big roaster which a lady had given her. Mother Paula sang with pleasure as she herself prepared the turon and cooked a big roaster which a lady had given her. Mother Paula had one weakness. She couldn't bear to see the girls punished. Every day, Sister Damiana punished some girls when it was time to go home. The punished ones waited a few minutes. And then all of a sudden, Mother Paula appeared, so the girls breathed a sigh of relief. They were saved. Isn't it true, dear daughters, that you will not do it again? Forgive them, Sister Damiana, and tomorrow they will behave better, said Mother time and time again. Sister Damiana didn't like Paula's intervention, but she forgave them. One day she told Mother Paula, as long as they have such a lawyer, we won't get anywhere with them. No, daughter, no, responded Mother Paula. These girls should be treated with more kindness than harshness. Don't you remember what you did when you were a child? When you wanted to punish the girls? Remember your childhood. Mother Paula visited the classrooms of the older students. She said, look, today a girl came to school wearing sandals that are so old that she can hardly walk. You yourselves will get her some new ones. She continued, This afternoon, each one will bring me some coins, whatever you can afford. And so they did. An hour later, Mother returned very happily. She told them she already has new sandals. In her name and in the name of Jesus, I give you thanks. Sacking of the school against the church. Things were worse in some places than in others. One fine day, they closed the church in Olesa and expelled the priests. Mother Paula understood that they could not remain in the midst of this situation. A friendly family offered all of the sisters dresses so they could escape unnoticed to the city.
The mother foundress was the first to put on the dress, and then they all followed her and did the same. They left The mother foundress was the first to put on the dress, and then they all followed her and did the same. They left in an old cart, crossed the Lobregat River, and arrived at Martorell, where they took a train to Sabadell. The superior general met them there. Mother Paula left her sister safe and sound, and then returned to Olesa with Sister Manuela. She wanted to be near her school and her beloved girls. They waited in a nearby house for better days to come. In January of 1874, there was a change in the Spanish government and things became more peaceful. The priests returned and they restored the classrooms of the school, which had been destroyed and sacked. The only thing they could do was to begin once again.
The final goodbye, February 26, 1889.
The years passed and Paula was already very old, but she always continued to be herself. She kept a joyful and youthful spirit. In the evening, she used to call one of the boarding students.
Please bring me the lace you are making. I will work on it a little for you. In the meantime, read me this book.
As the girl read aloud, the room was filled with the poetry of Saint Teresa of Jesus. Meanwhile, Mother Paula worked on the lace with great agility, just as she did as a girl. At times, they both said the verse, the girl read them, and Paula talked with God. I live but do not live in me. And so, great is my desire that I die because I do not die. Many times, her former students, who were now mothers of families, came to visit her. She always ended the conversation telling them, From
heaven I will continue helping you. I will be waiting for you there with open arms.
She received a great joy in the last years of her life. The final approval of the constitutions by Pope Leo XIII in 1887. It was the greatest proof that she had lived the dream God intended her.
Mother Paula became very ill and was confined for bed for 15 days. She asked them to bring her Holy Communion, and after receiving communion, as she always did, she spent a long time conversing with the love of her life, God. She also wanted to say goodbye to her girls, the other great love of her life. They went up to her room to see her by two. Goodbye, my dear daughters. Now it is certain that I will not go down to visit the classes again. Be very good. Love God and your father and mother very much. Goodbye. I'll see you in heaven. The girls kissed her hand and left the room in tears. But Mother Paula did not want tears, and she told them instantly, "See you in heaven." At sunset on February 26, 1889, when the sun hid its rays behind the mountains of Montserrat, Mother Paula sat up in bed and fixing her gaze, she exclaimed, Mother, my mother, the mother Paula was born into heaven, which she had desired with all her heart. Saint Paula. Young girls and young women needed mother's heart to overcome their situation of poverty and cultural outcast. Paula Montal, with her schools and the holiness of her life, was the solution for the situation in which the young girls were living during her times. Her message continues to be relevant and active today throughout the world. The Church publicly declared this on November 25, 2001, in St. Peter's Basilica, when Pope John Paul II declared her saint, and now she is Saint Paula Montal Fornes of St. Joseph Calasanz. Paula's canonization brought immense joy to all the Escolapias, and for each of us in its assurance that if we study her life and seek to imitate her, we will follow a path that will lead us to live in God. The educational work of St. Paula Montal continues in the Church through more than 700 religious Escolapias by our sisters, who are dispersed among 112 communities which educate some 30,000 students in 20 nations on 4 continents. They carry on the promotion of women so that there may truly be a civilization of love.
She watches us from heaven, miracle of Mother Paula for the poorest. The place is Blanquizal, a village on the outskirts of Medellin, Colombia. A marginalized place characterized by a problem of alcohol, violence, drugs, prostitution. There is a school there named Lawrence Dimar that has a great love for Mother Paula. On September 1, 1993, an 8-year-old Natalie Garcia Mora was shot on the back and a bullet passed through her body, hitting a lung and the spinal medulla. Lack of health facilities and transportation delayed her receiving medical attention. After the doctors completed the clinical examination, the diagnosis they gave her mother was serious. Perhaps they could save her life if they performed lung surgery immediately, but her arms and legs would remain paralyzed, and for this reason, she would be unable to walk again. She was hospitalized for 20 days. When she returned home, the Escolapias began visiting her and started a novena to Mother Paula, praying her for healing. During this time, Natalie recovered movement, and when she returned to the hospital, the doctors were unable to explain what happened. Today, Natalie is an absolutely normal girl. Her case was examined in Rome, and on July 1, 2000, the miracle attributed to Mother Paula was approved on November 25, 2001. Pope John Paul II proclaimed Mother Paula's Montal as a model life for the whole Church.
Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, we thank you for giving us in Saint Paula Montal of Saint Joseph Calasanz a living witness of your Son's gospel. Grant that we may see her in a mother who teaches and encourages us with her words and example. That we might better imitate her, grant us strength in difficulties, humility in the truth, fidelity to your grace, generosity in surrendering ourselves for love of you, and for our brothers and sisters. Through her intercession, grant us the grace that we hope to obey. Amen. Mother Paula, Mother and Teacher, ever shining star of the youth, God adore you with great love and patience. Lead mother and teacher, ever shining star of the youth. God adored you with great love and patience. Lead the poor and the children to Christ. Madre Paula, mother and teacher, you love the church whose hope is the youth. Lifted high in the heavenly dwellings, may our daughters praise you in their undertakings. Madre Paula, mother and teacher, ever shining star of the youth. God adored you with great love and patience. Lead the poor and the children to Christ. Madre Paula, mother and teacher, we join you in exalting